Okay, so I did my cultural awareness project on three groups that I see a lot in my school. So the first group that I wanted to focus on were Latinos and Latinas, um, because I would say my school is close to 60-70% Latino, Latina. And then the second group I wanted to focus on were females. And then the third group I wanted to focus on were students with IEPs, with a diagnosed disability, whatever that disability may be. And I wanted to go through and ask some questions and find out a little bit more about each group so that I could better include them in my curriculum, in my lesson planning, and just connect with them just that much more so that way I can see success in them, connect with them, build on top of what I know, and kind of build that connection with their families as well. I've realized that when you get permission from their families to do a project like this, because I called each parent, and when you get permission, they're interested. They want to know what kind of research you're doing, and they want to know about you and what you're pursuing in your education and what you're teaching their kids. And um, they really were positive, and so were the students. It was really nice to see. It was really refreshing, and I feel like I truly learned a lot. So the first thing that I want to focus on is the first group, which are my female students. So this is all done at a middle school, and these are all eighth graders who participated. And the first group is three females that I have in my study skills class. This is a pull-out service for one period a day at the middle school level. So these are all students who, in their IEP, it is said that they need one period a day to work on math, English, homework, whatever, and I'm there to support them. I'm their support system. And then these kids go out to the general ed classroom for every other class, and I'm in that class co-teaching with their English and math teachers. So I see these students all day. I know them very well, very familiar with them, and they were more than willing to do this assignment. Um, so the first student, I'll just call her student 5, because that's what I refer to her in my paper. So student 5 is 14 years old. She is an 8th grader. She does self-identify as Mexican American, and uh, she is on the honor roll. She's got an IEP, and she's one of, I think, the hardest workers, um, in my entire class. I mean, she's just always doing amazing things, and she really impresses me on a daily basis. I mean, she's really got it. And so I went ahead and I asked her these questions, and she gave me some really great responses. So first I started out with, what do you self-identify as far as like your ethnicity, your background? And do you take pride in that and where you come from? Why or why not? Basically what she shared with me is that she's Mexican American. She's very proud of it. She's proud of where she comes from. She's proud of what that stands for. And she's a little nervous with the direction of this country with the election of our new president-elect. That's what she shared with me. But she's proud to be a Mexican. She doesn't want to be called Latina or Latino. She wants to be called Mexican. The second question was, do you feel that the school presents the same challenges to female students as they do male students? And do you think the school sets higher goals for females than males? The reason I chose this is because a lot of the articles that I found were that a lot of our girls with disabilities are given these like really simple goals, and a lot of them, 1/3 of them to be exact, are getting jobs that pay minimum wage or less. It's scary. So I wanted to see what kind of goals are being set for these girls. Do they feel challenged? What do they feel like in the classroom? And so she reported to me that she feels like girls get better treatment in the classroom. She feels that boys are getting in trouble more. And she feels like the goals for girls are a lot higher. She feels like if she gets below a B or an A, the teachers kind of bug them and ask them questions, where the boys, they can fail and get D's and no one says anything, which I think was pretty insightful on her part, because I think that does happen a lot, especially in special ed. Then I asked her what the primary language spoken at home was, and I also asked, do you feel that this gets in the way of learning English in the school system? And do you think it's hard to speak a mixture of two languages if you speak more than one? She does speak Spanish at home. That's the primary language. That's the language that she learned first. Um, and she said the hardest thing she remembers is going to school and having to like translate for herself, learning two languages at the same time. And it got in a way, she said, a lot of her writing and a lot of her spelling and a lot of her reading. She felt like it was really hard to do all those things in both languages. She needed a lot of extra time. I then proceeded to ask her if anyone at home is worried about their immigration status. The reason I asked this is because one of the articles I read touched on the fact that a lot of our students don't have a lot of parent involvement, our Latino students, because some of these parents are not legal citizens, so they're scared to approach the school or come to school functions because they feel like someone might discover that they're illegal and try to get them out, which to me was just like broke my heart because parents aren't getting involved because they're worried about getting deported, and these kids are having to kind of hide it, and it's intense, and you learn a lot for what these kids are going through. She reported to me that she has no one in her family that's worried about immigration status, so it's not an area of concern for her. Question 5. Do your parents set forth educational goals? Do they create goals for you as far as your education goes? And do they include college in those goals? And did your parents attend college? For the first student, she said that her parents have made it a goal for her to go to college. That's the main thing they want. Community college all the way. She also says that no one has graduated from high school in her family, so she'd be the first person to do that. And she would be the first person, of course, to attend college. So she's pretty proud of that. Let's see. And then finally, question 6 has to do with the IEP that she has. And I asked, with your IEP, does your family look at this as a good thing or bad thing? And how does it make you feel about your IEP? The last article that I read had to do with Latino families looking at IEPs as something negative, as something that needs to be fixed, as something that can only be fixed by the grace of God, is what the article said. So I wanted to see what parents were saying to their students and what that made students feel like. She said that her parents look at it as a very positive thing, but they do want it to be gone. They don't want her to have it anymore. And I kind of communicated to her that it's such a good thing and there's no reason to get rid of it, but she's determined to, by the time she gets to high school, not have it anymore. So, pretty motivated student. It was pretty fascinating to see. Next student in that group of females was the same exact age. And I asked her the same group of questions. So we're going to call this one Student 6. This is also a female and also wanted to be referred to as Mexican, not Latino or Latina. So this student here feels, for the first question, that she identifies as Mexican and is very, very extremely proud of it. She also bragged to me that the Mexican soccer team beat the American soccer team over the weekend, so she's like truly proud of her heritage and where she comes from. She feels that the school treats girls a lot better, and she also feels that the school needs to work on how they treat women and males, and she feels like that's not equal, that they're a lot meaner to the boys than they are to the girls. So a lot of the kids focused on like punishment of girls and boys, not like the educational goals, which is what I was leaning towards. But it was fascinating to see. Question 3, her primary language spoken at home is Spanish. Her mom and dad both do not speak English. She said that it's hard to communicate with teachers and staff with her parents because they never answer, they never talk on the phone because they don't speak English. When I asked about the immigration status, I made sure to let her know that none of this was going to be shared with anybody else except for me and the professor that I'm doing this for. And she said that her mom is worried about immigration status. Her mom is not legal, and her mom does not get involved in school functions because her mom is scared of being deported. And that was, I could see the student getting a little upset with that one, so that was tough. Question 5, has her parents set forth like a goal? She said not really. She said that they wanted to graduate from high school. That's all she really shared. She said college is not a discussion. She said that her parents want her to get a diploma and then start working. And neither of her parents attended a college. And then question 6, her parents look at her IEP as something really, really positive and that they want to keep. They said they love it, and they know that it gives her the help that she needs, and it makes this student feel really good about her IEP. So that was interesting. And the third and final one in this group, we're going to call this Student 7. Student 7 is 13 years old, 8th grader, also has an IEP with a specific learning disability, and also identifies as Mexican. She felt that the school presents no challenges. She feels like it's pretty easy, and a lot of the teachers just give grades because they want the students to move on. I thought that was pretty interesting. She said her primary language spoken at home is English, so she has no really language barriers to speak of. And she didn't have to learn 2 languages. She's in English only. No one at home has to worry about immigration status, so it's not something on her mind, something she's concerned of. She said her parents' only educational goal is for her to go to school every day. That's what she reported. Mom did not go to school, dropped out of high school, and did not attend college. And dad is not in the picture. And then finally, last question was her IEP. Do they look at it as a good thing and bad thing? She said her mom has no idea she has an IEP. So this was a little concerning to me. This is a student that's on my caseload. And she reported that mom kind of is just not really involved. So it was hard to hear. But it was interesting also to see another point of view. The second group of students that I interviewed were specifically identified in the Latino group. So I self-identify as Caucasian, so I wanted to pick 3 students that were self-identifying as Latino, wherever country they are from or where their family is from. And I wanted to see their take on how they feel like they're involved in the school and all of that. So in this one, I also had the same questions, but I also asked the students if they feel like their heritage, their culture, is included in their curriculum. So I did the same questions, but I added one about the curriculum and including Latino figures, public figures, and putting that into the curriculum so that they feel involved, that their culture is actually there. And it was pretty interesting to see what these students thought about their culture being involved. So for this one, we'll call the first participant, let's see, student number 1. And this was a male, 14 years old, 8th grader. This student has an IEP as well. He has a visual impairment. No learning disability, just a visual impairment. Has to wear glasses and is legally blind. So I asked him, same questions, what does he identify as? He said Latino, and he said he likes to refer to himself as Mexican. He said he's very proud of it. He likes where he comes from, and he has a huge family, and he gets to visit Mexico all the time. So he really is proud of it, and he likes where his family comes from. I asked him if he feels like the school presents more challenges to boys or to girls. He said boys, which was interesting because now it's completely changed now that I'm interviewing a male. He said that boys have a lot higher expectations and people are worried about them more. And he feels like the goals that he has are a lot harder than some of the girls out there. He feels like the school system is way more lenient to girls and meaner to boys, basically, which was consistent with the girls' answers. What primary language is spoken at home? He told me Spanish. He said he was learning English and Spanish at the same time, but he learned English first. He said it's not hard to speak 2 languages. He's used to it. His mom and dad speak both languages at home and still practice it to this day. Question 4. Does anyone have to worry about immigration status? He said yes. Someone in his immediate family, he didn't want to share who, has to worry about immigration status, and he said it makes him nervous and they're moving all the time because of it. So that was interesting. And I said, does it affect his school? And he said that person does not get involved in the school at all because they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want anybody to know. So that was hard to hear. Question 5, have your parents set goals? He said that since the day he can remember when he was young, his mom has told him he's going to college, he's going to graduate. And he would be the first person to graduate from high school and college if he kept going with it, which he is an honor roll student, so I think he can do it. Um, I asked him if he feels like his Mexican culture is represented in the curriculum. He said not at all. He said, I think I remember one war or something from what we're learning in history class, but I don't feel like my culture is represented at all, and I feel bad because of it. I don't feel like anyone cares about where I come from. He said, I just feel like it's a bunch of white dudes in my book. Old white dudes is what he said. Um, I asked him about his IEP and what does his family think of. His family, he said, looks at it as a bad thing. He said that they're really negative about it and they want him to get rid of it. They think it's a bad thing. So he feels like he really wants to try and get out of special ed. That was hard to hear, but kind of goes along with the research that I did. The next student in this group of Latinos is a female, and we'll call this female student, let's see, 5, 6, 7. We'll call this student number 9, female. She has an IEP and she's diagnosed with emotional disturbance, and she self-identifies as Latino, more specifically Salvadorian. This student felt like she's really proud of where she comes from. She loves being Salvadorian. She loves where her mom comes from, and they get to visit once in a while. She feels that the school presents this equal challenges for everybody. Sometimes she feels like there are no challenges at all in school. She said it's pretty easy. The primary language spoken at home is English. She's in English only. Nobody's speaking anything else in the home. And does anyone have to worry about immigration status? She reported not at all. And then educational goal, she said there's no goal. Her parents just want her to go to school. And question 6, does your IEP look at a good thing or bad thing from your family? She said her family makes fun of her for the IEP, so she wants to get rid of it. That was tough. You know, if families are knocking a student down because of an IEP, it's going to be hard for us to kind of create a support system for that student, for that parent. And then finally, having to do with the culture, where she comes from, is it included in her class? She said not at all. She has no idea about her culture and where she comes from and background. She feels like it's not represented at all. So a lot of interesting stuff. The students are telling me that they don't feel included, and that's kind of what this whole class has been about, is getting our students to feel included, because when they feel like they're connected to the content and they feel included, of course they're more likely to work hard, be successful in the classroom, and close that achievement gap. If we're keeping this Eurocentric type of teaching, the way we're going with these textbooks and the Common Core and the kind of standards that we're using, then of course these students are going to keep struggling. And of course these Latino families are going to feel disconnected. And of course these students are going to not feel like they're a part of the curriculum and a part of this reality pedagogy that we're trying to implement as new teachers, coming into the system right now. So my final group was a group that identifies as students with a disability. So all these students have an IEP. First student, we'll go ahead and call them student number 1. No, I'm sorry, this is student number 2. And this is a male, 14 years old, 8th grader, has a specific learning disability and identifies as Latino or Mexican. This student shared with me that he lives with both parents at home, and none of them went to college. He would be the first one to go to college. He feels that his parents have given him a lot of challenges. He needs to get to school every day. He can't miss a day. He needs to go to college, and they're not really giving him an option. He feels that male students are challenged a lot more than females. He feels like he's got a lot harder things to do than the females at the school. Primary language spoken at home is Spanish. He said there's barely any English spoken at home. He said it makes it tough when he has questions on his homework and stuff like that. His parents can't really help. He said that no one has to worry about their immigration status at home. So he said he's not stressed out about that at all. We talked about the goals. And then I asked him if he feels like this is one more added question to this, just for this particular subgroup, which was, do you feel like students or people with disabilities are included in your curriculum? He said not at all. He said he has no idea what his IEP is, doesn't really know about his goals, doesn't really care. So that hurt. As his case carrier and already having his meeting and going over all this stuff, it's like I want him to know what all that means, and I felt like he did. Second student in this group was student number 3. Male, 13 years old, 8th grader, specific learning disability. This student, I'll sum it up a little bit quicker here, feels that um, that Spanish is better than English, so they speak it at home. He feels like he's not represented at all as far as IEPs go. He doesn't know anything really about it. He is severely worried about immigration status. He's got someone at home that he feels like could get deported at any time, is what he told me. Educational goals is to graduate from high school, nothing further than that. And then he's going to join the landscaping business with his family, with his father. His family looks at the IEP as a negative thing. They want him out of it as soon as possible, out of the program. And yeah, that's it for that one. And then the final student, we'll call student 4, lives at home, visits Mexico regularly, very proud to be a Mexican American, very proud to have an IEP. He's like totally about it. Self-advocate, loves everything about the IEP. He feels like it gets him help, gets him support. And his main thing that he wanted to share with me was that he's got someone at home immediately close to him that's worried about deportation status, and he said that gets in the way with them helping him with school and getting him to school and stuff like that. He also feels like students with IEPs aren't represented at all in any part of his curriculum. So the overall feeling that I got is a lot of these students did not feel represented in their classrooms, in their textbooks, and a lot of them are worried about their home life. So if they're not being represented in the class, and then they've got some bigger stuff going on at home, of course they're going to struggle in the classroom. And so this really made me feel like, okay, if I'm going to go starting tomorrow and help these kids, what am I going to do? Number one, I got to get their cultures, wrap it all in a ball, and try to incorporate a little bit of it each day so that they feel connected. And then I've got to make sure to reach out to these parents and let them know that it's okay, that we're here to help. And I want to stress to them that the IEP is a good thing. I want to stress to them that everyone's there to support them. And I want to stress to them they can come to me for anything that they need. And I want them to feel connected to their school. Thank you.